All right, Ron Goodall, FightHype.com. I'm here with my guy, Bruce Shu Shu Carrington. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm cooling, man. I'm cooling. Coming off of just, traveling a lot, being in New York for the fights out there, and then hopping on a quick flight back to Vegas for the fights last weekend. And yeah, man, I'm really like, just enjoying this whole world tour type of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know when I took a day trip out to New York, I
Mm.
saw you at the press conference and they had you somewhat working.
Yeah,
You had the mic, you're
yeah,
going around interviewing Mike Tyson and a whole bunch of other
yeah.
people and stuff like. What was that experience like? Because I know you did commentary work for ESPN and Top Rank. So what was that experience to do something like that?
Yeah, that was different. That one was like more, it felt like a influencer type of vibe, content creator type of vibe. And it was something that like was kind of out of my, I wouldn't say my comfort zone, but it was something different because they had me like running out in the streets and asking people, "Yo, what you think about the fights? Who you think is gonna win tomorrow?" Then after that, I was got the opportunity to ask Mike Tyson questions and all of that was like really really dope. I really felt really included into the event. I felt um, like it was because it was at home. It was just such a great vibe, and I always love New York City. You know what I'm saying? It was so dope, man. I think that the event was massive. It was such a spectacle.
Yeah, and I think when you were doing all those different type of stuff for Ring and that whole event, um, I thought it was a little cool moment. I don't know if you want to go in details or not, or just, but I know, in past, like in social media, I've seen like you and Shakur kind of like, nip at each other a little bit. But when they asked you about fantasy fights, like if you built a ring card, you
Mhm.
know, um, you essentially gave him a lot of love and props by saying you would love to see him and Floyd on your imaginary ring card. So, just kind of just wanted to ask, like, you guys kind of cool, worked it out, probably just fighters being fighters, just because I just thought that was a really cool thing that you did, because you gave him
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
mean,
love.
like, bro, I never had beef with Shakur. So whenever the whole thing went down with him and I, it was like, where the hell that came from, But we've had a conversation before, and we have one conversation about it some time ago, and we just kind of just left it where it was. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't really like a thing. It shouldn't have been a thing in the first place.
Hmm.
But even if I felt a way or anything like that, I respect the man's game. I respect what he brings to the sport in terms of his style. And I feel like, he's one of the best defensive fighters that probably ever laced him up, So in my mind, obviously, I could have picked other, matches or whatever, and this probably coming in my head. But the first thing that came to my head was the styles between Floyd and Shakur, and I was like, curious to see how that matchup would have been, just because how the styles would have, matched up. It would have been a boxing, it would have been a fight for the boxing purists, and I see myself as that. So that's why I said that. But a lot of people in the comments they're like, "Oh no, Floyd will beat Shakur up." But I'm like, yeah, people would, they have their opinions, but I just was just intrigued by the style matchup. So that's why I said
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and a lot of times, one's in currently trying to prove himself and one's proven himself. So, that's obviously going to be everyone going to Floyd. But I just wanted to highlight, like, that was cool. I noticed that was something where obviously you guys grew up in the amateur scenes and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
that little moment, whatever that was, I'm happy to see that you guys, worked that stuff out. And
yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
um, at the same time, there was other people that you been around and grew up in the amateurs. They fought on that card. It was supposed to be, the start of the best boxing weekend. I know a lot of people felt indifferent
Yeah.
about some of the performances that went down. I know Tio had a good win on paper against Barboza. I
Mm,
know so I think some people probably wanted a little bit more from Tio. I think Tio
for sure.
wanted probably more about himself. And then I think even on Saturday with Canelo and School and
Yeah.
and Devin Ramirez, they've kind of had the same virtually the same criticism, right?
Yeah.
They were criticized for quote running or
Mm,
or being too overly defensive,
Yeah.
extremely safe, and not letting their hands go. So just someone who boxes and also engages, likes to fight too. What was your thoughts on that? Like, what was the balance in your mind when you saw those two fights?
Well, it's a difference with Skull and Devin Haney. When I felt like with Devin, I felt like he was a little more offensive minded than Skull. Skull, he wasn't trying to engage at all. Then when it came to Devin, he showed some like, some boxing, smarts and IQ, his little tactics and whatnot. But also I understand when it comes to where Devin is in his career and why he fought that way. He just came off a tough loss against Ryan Garcia, experienced multiple knockdowns, experienced the ridicule and all of the stuff, with that came with the loss. And I'm pretty sure because of, I think, he has a persona about him and that probably hurt his ego. So I do feel like he fought a careful fight and which I feel like he needed to build his confidence back. So I'm sitting there watching the fight. I'm like, yeah, it's not the most entertaining, but I get it. Like I understand why he fought that way. Like it's like I felt like he needs to get his feet back wet again and go back into the winning column so that he can be able to, feel confident in himself again and take more chances maybe in the next fight. And then on top of that, Ryan loses. So now I was like, okay, like I mean, he makes him even feel even better about himself. So,
Mhm.
I felt like Devin fought that way for a reason. Now with Skull, yeah, Canelo punches hard, yeah, but bro, come on. I don't know. That one was a little different. Granted, it was similar in approaches. Don't get me wrong with him and Devin, but I just felt like Devin just did a little more. It wasn't much more, but he did a little more to make the difference.
You think when people mention like they're running, is it fair in a sense, or is it, that's part of boxing, great lateral movement and not putting himself in dumb positions?
I mean, there's a fine line between, boxing, the ring generalship and running. There definitely is. And I think the fine line is how much offense is being put out. If there's little to no offense, then yeah, that's running. But then if there's offense in between, and then sometimes you're taking charge and of the center of the ring, and then you go back out to the middle, back out to the ropes or using the outside, you're showing like I could fight anywhere in the ring that I want to, but I'm gonna be out here most of the time. But if I decide to come in the middle of the ring and get my little shots out and come back out, that's showing that I can do it whenever I want to. Now, if you're just doing this the whole fight, then that's different. Yeah, I can say that that's a little running because what Skull was doing was very excessive. So yeah, those are the differences between the two.